All right, man, we back. Goodfellas Sports TV. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell icon button, share the video. Appreciate the love, support, and let's talk about some NBA rumors. It's a rumor going around that James Harden could end up on the Bucks. Just a rumor, but first let's talk about the Lakers are actively, or the Clippers, excuse me, are actively shopping Paul George. And it also was a report out there that after they blew a 3-1 lead, Steve Ballmer wanted to fire and trade everybody on the Clippers organization. But make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell icon button, hear the video. But I mean, it depends on who take Paul George. You got some rumors about the Nets. I doubt that, but you got some rumors about the New York Knicks. And if they was to deal Paul George to the Knicks, who would they get back that can help them? I think they can get those pieces that can fill out the team. I mean, Mitchell Robinson will be good in the middle. He's a young guy. It's going to probably be a really, really good defensive center. Depends on what he can give you. As far as offensively down the road, that's up for them to develop him. You also get their first round pick. I forget what pick they at, but I mean you can get Obi Toppins. I believe the Knicks are somewhere in the top 8, maybe a little bit higher. I can't remember, but I mean Obi Toppins. You can find it. You can get you with James Wiseman slide. You can find you a point guard. It's a point guard galore. If you like Cole Anthony, I mean LaMelo Ball will probably be gone by the time the Knicks pick. I mean you got Tyrese Haliburton. I mean you could take that, pick whatever the Knicks got. You could trade down. Boston got 3 first-round picks. I mean it's a lot you can do. I mean depends on the cap space that the Knicks got. Can they absorb that max contract that Paul George is getting? If they can absorb it, then then you don't have to match up the salaries. If they can't, then you have to match up the salaries. But to be honest, I mean, Mitchell Robinson in that first round pick might be enough. If you want to go out there and you want to get some of their depth, maybe Kevin Knox, he really ain't show much. But Mitchell Robinson is probably the key you want on that team anyway. That's who you want. I mean, you want Frank Ntilikina or Dennis Smith Jr. That would be good for them. If they can get Dennis Smith Jr. and Mitchell Robinson in that first round pick from the Knicks, that'd be good. And then, at that point, if you can get Wiseman wherever the Knicks are picking at, that'd be ideal for the Clippers because now you got Mitchell Robinson, who your center for now, and then you got a situation where Wiseman can be your center of the future. Then you can let Montrezl Harrell walk. And then you go out here and you bring in Dennis Smith Jr. to be your point. I mean, it can really work out for them. And what they need to do is they need to trade Paul George for multiple pieces so they can fill out that roster. And will the Knicks do it? They might do it. I mean, then you're looking at the Nets. Do the Nets feel like they can do with Paul George? I mean, they can overcome, Paul George playoff woes as long as Paul George can defend and slash and cut to the rim. Because Kyrie going to show out in big game moments. And we know if KD healthy, he going to show out in big game moments. So if you talking about trading him over to the Brooklyn Nets, then possibly you can trade him for Dinwiddie. I mean, Jared Allen. Who else they got over there? Karis LeVert. I mean, they got some pieces over there. I mean, they looking for another max, but Paul George's name so bad in these streets, it got to the point where, in the exit interviews, nobody had nothing nice to say about Paul George. The whole team didn't like Paul George, is what you hear. And basically they blame Paul George, but then again, Paul George showed up more than Lewis Williams and Patrick Beverly was injured, but more than Lewis Williams and Montrezl Harrell. So in your situation, if you can trade Paul George, you know what I'm saying, you trade him. You can trade him for multiple picks. I mean, the Knicks might be the best destination for the Lakers. I mean, for the Clippers to do so, because then you can go over there and you can probably get Mitchell Robinson. You get a pick. They don't like Dennis Smith Jr. They got a lot of picks and players over there that can help fill out that roster, especially if you put them in a winning organization. So, I mean, you got other teams that could be interested in them as well too. Maybe the Wizards might be interested. Obviously, nobody wants to absorb John Wall contract, but John Wall is looking good. I seen him playing pickup basketball a minute last week. He's looking explosive and good and strong again. But his lifestyle scare you. His lifestyle is not straight. He gangbanging still and doing all that dumb stuff. But I mean, you can look at Minnesota. You know what I'm saying? Would they do a Paul George for Carl Anthony Towns swap? They might. And people say, well, Carl Anthony Towns soft, but you know what? He can hoop. And that'll solve your center woes right there. I mean, he can hoop, and maybe, Kawhi can instill some toughness in him. But I mean, obviously D'Angelo Russell, would you trust him? He ain't been healthy. I mean, you could probably see a Paul George to the Golden State Warriors swap. I mean, that's something nobody talking about. I mean, they looking to give away their number 2 pick. They looking to bring on an additional superstar that's around the age of Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green, and it could work. You know what I'm saying? It definitely can work. I mean, they can trade Wiggins and that number 2 overall pick to the Clippers, and they can get Paul George. Now, with the number 2 overall pick, what do the Clippers do? I mean, you might have some choices there. I heard Minnesota's supposed to be taking LaMelo Ball. Did at number 2. I mean, you could take Wiseman. You need a center. You can take Wiseman. I mean, Anthony Edwards. I'm not sold on him, but I think Wiseman would be the pick because they need help in the middle. So you say you can go over there and get Wiggins, and you place Paul George with Wiggins, and hopefully Wiggins can do some things, and you ever get James Wiseman in the middle. That might work. And I'm not sure how quick does Wiseman contribute to the basketball team right now, but he's a beast. And Wiggins. I mean, he can't defend. If Kawhi can get the most out of Wiggins, it's probably be like Paul George being there. You know what I'm saying? Because Paul George don't give you nothing in the playoffs. I mean, that trade sounds nice. I mean, would they consider trading Draymond Green? I mean, I don't know, but I think they line up with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson in the backcourt, Paul at the 3, Draymond at the 4. They switching and playing a little 3 and 4, and then they will need a center. I'm not sure where they find that center at. Maybe they do a sign and trade, and they send Montrezl Harrell over to the Clippers. And they have somebody in the middle because Anthony Davis is a problem for the Clippers. He'd be a problem for the Warriors without a center in the middle. So, I mean, some different possibilities, but I heard everybody on the team don't like Paul George, and most likely they shipping him. Now, all right, James Harden. It's some rumors out there that he could have went to the 76ers if Mike D'Antoni got that job. It was some rumors right now that he can be paired up with Giannis in Milwaukee. And if that's the case, they pairing him up with Giannis in Milwaukee. I mean, Giannis going to have to learn to play without the basketball. And so will James Harden. They got to learn to play and move. And I don't think that would be a good fit. I don't think Harden mentally want to go from Houston, a town that got it all. It's probably going to be the 3rd biggest city behind New York and L.A. in the census after this census 2020 is done, to Milwaukee, where it's damn near still segregated, and it's cold. And it's unless Giannis is sharing, Giannis is going to sign that contract, that extension. But, in actuality, in reality, I don't really know how that works. Because Giannis can't play without the ball, and James Harden don't like to play without the ball. That's my biggest problem right there. You got Giannis who ball dominant. You got James Harden who ball dominant. You got Mike Budenholzer who don't know how to draw promotion offense. I don't think that's a good fit for them. Now if they can get Giannis down there and when they can run Mike D'Antoni's system, that might work. But once again, Giannis don't like to play without the basketball. Until Giannis learn how to move without the basketball, he know how to curl and cut without the basketball. Till he know how to post up. Till he know how to pick and pop and hit the mid-range jumper. Giannis is going to be incomplete. He's incomplete. He could be best defensive player in the league. He could be an MVP, but he ain't going to win until he work on his post-game, mid-range game, and his floater game. That's what he got to work on. He trying to go out there and shoot 3-pointers. Forget all that. Master the mid-range game. Because once they build that wall at the top, at the free throw line, all you got to do is be able to pull and pop. And if you can pull and pop consistently, it'll be a wrap, And they talking about trading Eric Bledsoe. And to get James Harden, they would pretty much have to, trade everything. All they picks, to get James Harden. They have to trade their picks just like the Clippers for the next 4 or 5 years. At least the next 3 years. 3 number 1 picks, maybe even 4 because they're going to be drafting low. Then they got to probably trade Bledsoe. Then they probably going to want Middleton. I mean, it just ain't going to be worth it, bro. And then you look at it, if you don't re-sign Giannis, then it's a situation where, you rebuilding without draft picks. So now those draft picks creep on up, and you start to lose if Giannis lose. If you all start to lose, if Giannis leave, kind of a tongue twister there, then those picks become top 10, top 5 lottery picks, potentially number 1. And Houston got Middleton, they got Bledsoe. And then, the year after Giannis leave, now your guys are bad, and now those turn into top lottery picks, and you looking at a situation like, we shouldn't have did that deal. Now, if you're able to get a commitment from Giannis, then cool. But but San Antonio, let me say this: they built their longevity on late round draft picks. Ginobili, Tony Parker, they built it, and then they made trades. They traded George Hill, who went to Uwe Pui. They traded him for Kawhi Leonard. They just made the right moves for that franchise, and that's the difference with some franchise. The Pistons didn't have the longevity that the Spurs had because they didn't draft well. They like a lot of those teams like to trade their late round draft picks. Look at the Lakers; they got Kuzma, that worked out. Look at Monte Ellis, worked out, second round draft pick. Gilbert Arenas worked out, second round draft pick. Draymond Green worked out. Without Draymond, they might not be the team Golden State is right now. So you got to respect those late round draft picks. If you a top playoff contender or you a middle playoff contender, you in that 15, 16 to 23, 30 range, you got to draft well. You know what I'm saying? You got to take advantage of those picks. And if you don't take advantage of those picks, then your franchise is not going to be good. So Milwaukee, they going to need, even if they keep Giannis or they let him leave, they going to need those picks. Them late round picks, you can't be trading them. You have to find hidden gems and dust them off. Darius Baisley in Oklahoma City is balling out his mind right now. You got to take those picks, and you got to take those second round picks. You got to find talent. Look at the Miami Heat. Kendrick Nunn, undrafted, had some issues in college. Then they picked up Duncan Robinson, undrafted. Hey, if you want to keep staying on top, you have to keep looking for talent. Keep looking at ways to improve your team. And that's what the great teams that have longevity do. And the teams that don't have longevity, like the Nets, when they was making the finals runs, the Pistons, the Lakers after Kobe, after Shaq left, you got to be able to draft late and bring that premier talent in. But I don't really see James Harden and Giannis working and saving Milwaukee without the proper pieces around them. Let me know what you guys think. Also, on the side note, Darvin Ham will be interviewing for the Clippers job. He's also a final candidate for the Indiana Pacers job. And Doc Rivers said, don't call him Doc no more. Call him Glenn Rivers, because there's only one Doc in Philadelphia, and that's Dr. J. Julius Erving, one of the greatest to do it. So there's a little bit of side notes out there. Appreciate the love, support. Keep sharing videos. Want to make a donation to the channel? Cash App CJ Good 313. PayPal link in the description. One time for the one time. Y'all know what it is. We go.